did not like that.
Yeah, how are you? How are you?
Yeah.
I feel like I've known you my whole life. Are you guys live streaming?
Yeah, we're live streaming.
I'll put something there to say yours. Oh yeah. Oh wait, yeah, you're right. Gallery was in the You're going. I went last night. Oh, where is it?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. There's the whole right there. Sit down. We got you started soon. Sorry? Or the panelists, yes, they'll be sitting in the front.
Yes, we met in the
It's just called the Performing Arts Center. Yes, I'll send it to you.
Oh, I'm grabbing a seat.
Okay. Mine is a half hour and total is there's just two. My parents will be
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That word also means bad letters and means art. I'll send you the thing that I know. And means fitness. So I think I can fit, yeah, two can go up here and then the other two can go right back there. Or the other three. So one more here.
I wanted to grab that page.
And then the other ones can go back there. Oh, thank you guys.
No, it's your own machine. Okay. No, it was very sensation. The other time I was in hit the building. I know. Oh, I know. Yeah. We know everyone.
I didn't know she knew.
It's all biased. Yeah.
Artists can, okay, there's a spot. Artists, if you could come and take a seat.
We've shown before.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're working on it.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yeah, okay.
Okay, welcome to the gallery, Riverfront Art Gallery. The show that we have up now is Bridging Chasms. My name is Tifa Benkati. I'm the curator here. I've been the curator here for more than 20 years. So it's been quite a journey for me and wonderful journey because I get to meet and talk to incredible artists like the ones here on our panel and the ones in our audience, and that's very fulfilling for me. I'm also an artist, and so it's wonderful to work in a community of fellow artists. So this particular show, Bridging Chasms, oh, and I also want to introduce Alia Mudud, who is the assistant curator, and she's getting ready to graduate college very soon, so that's very exciting. You know, the show here, Bridging Chasms, for me was really important because maybe where I am in my life right now, my personal life and my artistic life, it really is about kind of being in the studio, but then being in real life as an artist, and sometimes that's problematic. If you're an artist, many times people do not understand what it means to live an artist's life and to be completely consumed in your art. And it means that life is kind of on the side very often, but your life is your art, and then other things kind of come in when they can. I find it a beautiful life to live. I also find it a problematic life because being an artist means that you're a truth teller and that you tell the truth all the time. And often people don't want the truth. And so you kind of walk that line and you bridge it with your art. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and now that I'm aging and been here for quite some time and been an artist for quite some time, and just thinking about what that means as an artist to kind of be in this time where you've lived your life and there's a world outside that just is so problematic, and how do we engage in that world in a way that helps bring justice to the world, liberation to Black and brown people, to queer people. How do we do that and also do our art? And the way that we do it is that we speak our truth in our art, and we try to bring liberation through our art. So I tried to select art that spoke to that theme. It's what inspired me to do this show. I think that we're going to have a very lively, wonderful, intense conversation tonight. We'll go for about 40 minutes with the artist panel, and then we want to hear from our artists in the audience, so we'll open up. And Alia is going to lead the artist talk. I know everybody is in capable hands, and I'll be running around and trying to move the iPhone to get people in the audience. Just so you know, it's being recorded, so we will have a recording and it will be on our Instagram and on our website, but we're also live on Instagram right now. So please feel free to pull out your phone and tell your followers to tune in on Instagram, but please also turn the ringer off on your phone. So welcome, and let's give a warm welcome to our artists.
Hello all, thank you so much for coming, and thank you all for coming and joining our discussion. So as Haifa said, we'll be doing about a 40-minute conversation between me and the artists, where I have some questions, and then we'll be opening it up to the audience for any questions that you guys have. So I just want to start off first. If you could please introduce yourself with your name, your pronouns, and briefly describe the mediums that you have used for the artwork that's in this show. So if we can start off with you, Saba.
Hey everybody, I'm Saba Ghazi, and my art piece is the quilt and then the hands, Jacob's ladder. The materials on the quilt are fabrics from India and America, and for Jacob's ladder, it's wood, acrylic, and then there's like a motorized system. Was that all? Oh, pronouns, she, her.
Hi, I'm Susan Caplow, she, her. I have 3 pieces in the show. One is the 2 hearts together right here. That's felted, hand-felted fiber. And I have the large tapestry, 2-sided tapestry that's on the frame back there. That is also fiber, felted. And I have a 3rd piece, which you can't see from here. It's a textile and parchment piece. I like to use natural materials when I can.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taisha, and I am a visual artist that uses acrylic and oil paints. I have a piece in the show called Jumastrol. It's against the wall over here. My pronouns are she, her.
I'm Heather Stoltz, she, her. I work mostly with fabrics, so I have one piece here that's the quilted flag, that's cotton fabrics, and another piece also that's quilted with purple people in it.
Hello, my name is Carlos Mateo. My pronoun is he, his. I primarily use acrylic on canvas, and this show I have like 5 pieces that are based in Middle East and India, and this is one of them.
Hi, my name is Susie Dessel, she, her, and my piece is around the middle pillar right here in the first row. And this particular piece is an installation where I used fabric and paint specifically for fabric, and a ready-made, which is the towel wrap.
Thank you. And so for the following questions, if we could just keep answers to around 2 minutes, if we can, I can keep track as well, just so that we can get through everything and also get to the audience. So for the first question we have, what bridges has art formed in your own personal life? And we don't have to go down the line. If anyone wants to answer, doesn't want to answer a specific question, that's no problem.
I'll answer. A very special bridge for me is with the El Hachem Gallery in El Hachem, Israel. El Hachem is a Muslim city, a small city, and I was a visiting artist there in 2011. I found it by Googling, so while sometimes I get really not happy with being on the computer so much, it was really great. And I'm now on the board of the American Friends of the El Hachem Gallery, soon to be given status as a museum, and it's been a wonderful bridge for me. And for them.
I'll answer that. I think I I mean, ever since I was a kid, for me, just the whole creative process and visualizing different experiences, it's been a bridge just to other people and connecting to people. And I think like sometimes words, when words fail, then visuals can help people to connect. So for me, it's been a way just to connect to other people. And it gives them something to talk about, something to converse about, and it kind of breaks down barriers for me. Yeah.
I love that answer. I totally agree. I think that being an artist, as it's stated, is a truth teller, but you're also a connector. You're allowing people to connect with you and your piece. You're allowing people to connect with each other. Like they'll see something in the piece that gives them pause or even evokes an emotion that they may have not been thinking about or hidden before. It's really good. I like being the bridge between a communication, because you know that artwork made is between the viewer and the artist anyway.
So I would follow up on that. I didn't become an artist until much later in life. I had a career first as an academic and second as a psychotherapist. So words were everything, like, you know, the words, my words, the client's words, the words in the articles and books and teaching, and so on. And as Saba was saying, there's something about getting away from the words and using materials, so COVID, the worst part of COVID, when it was so terrifying and depressing, and I would force myself to get on the subway and go to my studio. I live in Manhattan and the studio's in Long Island City, so it's a schlep, but I made myself do it. And I would be so depressed and just feeling like, oh, what's the point of anything? I'm sure people can identify with that. And I get into the studio and put my hands in the fiber, and it was like magic. And I would think, the Lord is my shepherd. I just was so there was something, I feel so fortunate that in this very, very difficult time that we've been living through, that I had my hands in work and then made something.
For sure.
Thank you.
And even being an artist during that time, we were able to create something that came from you that you're able to give back to the community, but also having a tax-style situation gave you something to feel, you know, to feel other than despair.
In addition to this.
In addition to
So going off of that point, what kind of conversations do you think can be facilitated by your artwork that is specifically in this show?
Well, I can talk. Yeah, well, I mean, when I'm creating, I'm exploring all different type of culture. I'm going to a lot of different things that are going in my head at the same time. Like here in this show, this series is based in Middle East and India. And why I got into that, because one day for some reason I was thinking about Cuba. I'm from Cuba, and I was thinking that we were not able to express ourselves there. And then I said, well, are we like fakirs? Are we like meditating? Are we like holding in? And I don't know, I decided to talk like that to myself about identify ourselves as fakirs, and we are holding things in. Probably they don't feel any pain, but probably the first time that you were sitting on top of the bed of nails, you were feeling pain until you got used to that pain and become normal in your life, and you don't know any other way. And so that's the way I felt like Cubans feel. And then I said, well, I'm gonna represent instead of nails like the royal palm tree, that is the national Cuban tree, and instead of nails. And but then after that, there was a time where people were expressing themselves. They got united. They went out of the street, and they were protesting. And I said to myself, oh, they are not meditating anymore. Now they are united and they are expressing themselves. So I turned the painting up in the other direction, and I call it unity in the tropics, because the were Cuban people that work all the royal palm trees together. And and then I said, where the fakirs come from? And took me to Middle East, and then took me to India. And then I said, I should do a series based on this. People sometimes I have friends and they get into the circus, because circus is a fantasy and has a lot to explore and a lot of material to work on. And I said, well, I don't want to get into that, but I'm going to create my own series based in Middle East and India that has a lot of fantasy and well, here the R5, then I ended painting 7. I sold 2, and here you can see other ones.
Thank you. I can also repeat the question if anybody
Yeah, I
wants.
was
Yes,
gonna
why
ask
don't
you.
you?
What kind of conversations can be facilitated through your artwork in this show?
So for me, the flag piece, it's in a time where there's a lot of people in the United States, so there's a lot of division among people. And in this piece, it shows the flag fraying and falling apart, but people are coming together to try to mend that. And the people are purple intentionally. They're not on either political side. They're not of any specific background, but they're working together and coming together to help.
My piece is called Kitchen Cabinet, and that comes from the term of the informal cabinet that presidents of the United States have had. And it's a place where people have great trust and communication is pretty direct. And the oven mitts, which you use when a situation is, when you're getting something really hot, have symbols from the flags of Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and Egypt. And I feel that even though a woman's only place is not in the kitchen or not in the home, the kitchen is historically associated with kitchen in a home situation. And I think that getting women together, you can have pretty direct, honest communication and maybe solve some problems that haven't been solved to date.
In that cabinet.
In that
Clean out the cabinet.
Right.
Yeah, I think I could go from there because in the second piece in Jacob's Ladder, that's based on like the childhood game of Cat's Cradle, and Jacob's Ladder, in the Bible, God had the ladder and he told Jacob, the rungs are based on your good deeds to heaven. So I said, well, what if Jacob doesn't have the good deeds? So these hands, one is the aggressor, one is the oppressor and the oppressed, and they're forming the ladder, but it's spinning. And it's spinning between the 7 levels of heaven and the 7 levels of hell, with earth in the middle. So I think it's similar questions, is that we're given this choice in life. What are we gonna do with this life? So that's what that one, I would say. And then for the second quilt, I think that's just more kind of lighthearted and more, it's just about being American. And what is it to be American? And so I tried to bring in the childhood memories I had of being a Muslim Indian American, and what does that look like? And it was very interesting when I was doing it, because I've had the idea in my head for 2 years, but immediately my siblings, the grandchildren, everybody immediately responded. And they were quite emotional when they saw it, because they just said that captures the spirit of Ramadan and what it was like for us. So, and I had a lot of conversations all night, and every time I've come, people have been very interested to see, and it is Ramadan right now, so they've been very interested to see and discuss the different parts of it. I mean, I'm from roller skating, on the street, to like praying in the basement. It's got kind of the whole experience.
Well, I love that we have so many different representations of where we are in America in this day and age, and from the personal to the political to then just generally speaking, everybody and their experiences. So then to go to a more general question, how can art help facilitate hard and difficult questions?
Is that a
Or
question
conversation.
Question.
How can art help facilitate hard and difficult conversations?
Yeah, can we just make it a statement?
Yeah.
Art helps facilitate hard and difficult conversations.
Easy enough, because it makes the person who's looking at the art, the viewer, their own truths when they see the piece. Because everyone has an immediate reaction to work, like you were saying, like how they feel about it. Something comes up within you, and it's the truth. Whether you speak it out loud or not, you know that it's the truth for you. So the difficult conversation comes from, are you going to be brave enough to speak it out loud? Because the artwork has already evoked that emotion in you.
One of my pieces, which you can't see from here, it's It's a textile, abstract woman's body with 2 breasts and parchment that has sayings on it coming down from it. So this piece was inspired by a very important Jewish part of the Talmud, which is called the Ethics of the Fathers. In Hebrew, it's called Pirkei Avot. And I was in a class at a yeshiva studying this, and the sayings are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're all good, right? And I'm thinking, Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers. Where are the mothers? So that's why I made this piece. And instead of taking things from the Talmud or the Torah, which are all written by men in any event, as far as we know anyway, I collected the wise sayings of the different women in my life who have been like a rabbi or a mother to me, including my mother, my grandmother, and then various other teachers. So thanks to Heather, I showed this piece at an organization called Jewish Orthodox Feminist Alliance, right? It was a fundraising dinner, and Heather, to her, in an amazing way, created a little art show just for this. So my piece is hanging there, and a man, I'm a little nervous because it's Orthodox, and I'm not Orthodox, and this is not Orthodox. This man is standing there like this and looking, and my heart is pounding, and I'm freaking out. And this is also has to do with what you said, not only what the viewer says, but how you're willing to engage. And I thought, I have to ask him. So I say, I'm the artist, you have a question. I'm freaking out. My heart was, I can still feel it, right? He goes, I'm so jealous of you women. All we have, he means Orthodox men. So Orthodox men wrap this thing called a tefillin. He said, it's just, all we men have are 2 hard boxes that we put here and here. And look what you women have. I'm so jealous. Well, I could still feel the amazement and the satisfaction of that. It was so wonderful. And if I hadn't taken that risk, that wouldn't have happened. Not that I always take the risk.
Well, just going off of your point, Taisha, I think it's an incredible point that it's making the audience, every art makes, the person who's interpreting deal with whatever internal battles that they're dealing with. It's like the art brings something out within, from each person, each individual person. And at the same time, it seems that that's happening for the artists too. As you guys are creating, it's not even just the conversations you're having with other people, the conversations you're having with yourself throughout the art making process. In what ways can art be used to enable community building, especially among diverse communities?
What type of community?
In what ways can art be used to enable community building, especially among diverse communities? And that can be diverse in any way you would choose to interpret that word.
I think this whole show is an example. Just even opening night, I just said to Haifa, how did you curate, first of all, this incredible art, but this incredible group of people and the viewers that were here. It was all conversations all night, and so many things. I mean, the current situation in the world right now, we look at the Middle East, and it's very hard to talk about it. But through a lot of the pieces here, meaningful conversations were had, and it was thought-provoking. And it's almost like it's like a third presence that can kind of serve as a way to converse. When it's hard face-to-face to have those conversations, but you have this third element that can bring the conversation.
I think that's absolutely true. I feel like being an artist, you're putting yourself out there in a way that you're almost naked, and you're letting people see, and also having a conversation with yourself, and having a conversation. I pointedly make my art about my community. I pointedly make my art about joy. I pointedly make those connections. Even if I'm feeling a point of despair in something that I see, I have to make it about something that, how can we turn this around and be pleased? How can we turn this around and be happy? How can we turn this around and be joyful? So whatever conversation I'm in, whatever my conversation with the viewer is, that this is about joy, that life is about joy, that these scenarios are about joy, and you can join into the scenario with me, with my piece.
I think it's also important, and that has a lot to do with joy, for children to build community through art making.
Yes.
I think when they're in a room together and they're being creative, they're feeling freer than if they have to use words, especially if there are language difficulties or, they just can express themselves and then share their work. And I think that really helps children build communities, and that's very important.
But also adults.
Also
Just
adults.
gonna say that.
Yeah, adults that may not have been able to have the words and may not have been able to express themselves. And there's been so many scenarios and conversations that I've had with other people that they see themselves in my work, they see themselves in work period, where they were not allowed to speak and this piece is speaking for them. And then they're able to then have that conversation with someone in a safe kind of way, like you were saying, like there's another entity in the space, so they're able to kind of talk through that.
And this gallery, which is, I think, a beautiful gallery, and the fact that it's in a library really offers a safe environment. I think it's very special in that way.
I think becoming a teaching artist been helping a lot, because just as a simple artist, I don't think I was able to communicate as well as if I was a teaching artist. That totally changed the view of see things and express myself. And also when you have a child is also another thing. Being a teaching artist and becoming a teaching artist and having a child, I mean, I was educating my son, I think, better in being as an educator than if I was not. And I was kind of very introverted, and I always carried that with me, and I said, how I'm going to educate my child. And so the first thing I'm gonna do, since I'm full-time father, I was painting, rocking my son in my arms. And I said, well, the first thing you wanna do is to explain to him loud everything you're doing in your piece, meanwhile he was you. So I was talking loud, explaining everything I was doing in my piece, meanwhile he was in my arms. And well, looks like that worked, because he ended to be very critical of my art, right? I had to tell him to keep quiet.
So it was like a sense of community building, not just for, the greater community that you live in, but also within your family community.
Yeah, could I speak one
Yeah,
quick thing on that?
absolutely.
I actually, I'm first generation. I was born in America. My parents came here in the late 60s, and then my kids are second generation. And mostly in Westchester, the Indian Muslim community is first generation. So my kids are, so I'm like thinking, they're American. They're going to grow up completely like this is just home. But it was actually, they've had a lot of challenges and a lot of questions. And my sister's daughter came, and my sister was thanking me for the quilt, because and I feel it like with my kids too, like there was kind of a drifting and a separation, but somehow it brought immediate family, I'm talking, which I didn't expect, kind of back into it, and gave them kind of a pride and a joy in their culture and in their faith, which I was not expecting at all. This was a very personal thing I was doing. So it's interesting how it hit home in the immediate circle as well. Yeah.
So I have a quote for all of you from Georgia O'Keeffe. The quote says, "I found I could say things with color and shapes that I couldn't say any other way, things I had no words for." So if you're willing, can you respond to this quote by thinking about how art can and has healed either you on a personal level or within your own community? And I can repeat the question or the quote as needed.
You got me all choked up on that.
I know, I'm just like,
I can't
I remember
speak.
that quote. I can go. For me personally, it's definitely something, because being an artist as an African American female and a Muslim is not a regular thing. And so it was a rebellious, respectful way of being that took my family a few minutes to really kind of grasp, and it took me a long time. You were saying you became an artist later. This is just 6 years for me, and it was a fight to allow myself to do so, and then also maintain the respect of my family and my community. Like, now I'm asked to go to a lot of different Muslim schools and let them know that I'm an artist. Look, there is an artist that's Muslim and she's practicing, and because you don't really get to see that, we're kind of, I don't wanna say exiled, but it's not an everyday thing. It's not an everyday thing, and so being respectfully, again, rebellious is also an intriguing thing for me, and allowing myself to be in that space all the time, and allowing others to come and speak to me that are timid and kind of not sure of themselves. And it's created a lot of positive conversations within my community and within my family.
This remind me when I was teaching a seniors class at Riverbank State Park, and I said I work a lot with my dreams, and when I wake up I write down things that I had in my dreams and find the interpretation of it represented on canvas or any way of expressing art. So I talked to the seniors and they said, Carlos, we are not trained to express that. We are not educated to talk about our dreams and to put it on canvas. That's very, like they find it very personal, even that was with me only alone in the classroom. Not everyone can express that or wanted to bring it out.
Thank you for the question. I wouldn't have said this if you hadn't, I wouldn't have thought this if you hadn't asked that question the way that you asked it. I would say being an artist has helped to heal my relationship to Judaism. I was brought up in a not an Orthodox, but a very observant family, and then, you know, being a girl and being a woman, I couldn't have a bat mitzvah, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and so on. And then being a lesbian, it was like, how do I fit in here in any way? I would say I found support from some specific artists, like the wonderful artist Toby Kahn, and a group that Toby has facilitated for many years. It's so interesting, he is straight but not narrow. Do you know that expression? He's very straight, very orthodox, observe Shabbat, all the kosher things and everything. However, when I wanted to do something that was that was enlarging or off the mark, he was incredibly helpful and encouraging. So I made a piece a few years ago, a big installation in the Talmud, in the Torah and in the Talmud. Homosexuality is an abomination. The person should be stoned and killed and taken out of the camp and so on. And I made a whole big installation about that. Toby was incredibly helpful in so many technical things about how to install a work. So that has been a real healing for me, to have other artists, some of whom are like me and most of whom are not like me, encourage this, and then to see that I can say, what about the wisdom of the mothers? And it can be shown here. It was shown at the Orthodox Alliance, and it's shown in some other places. So thanks for the question. Really helpful.
Absolutely.
Can you read it again, Alia?
Absolutely. So I'll read the quote first. I found I could say things with color and shapes that I couldn't say any other way. Things I had no words for. And that's from Georgia O'Keeffe. And the question is, can you respond to this quote by thinking about how art can, and has healed, either on a personal level or within your community?
Yeah, I think was the way I answered the last question with the quilt being about Ramadan, and it's healed kind of intergenerationally. For my kids and my nieces, my brother came, and you know, with my older brother, he's an older brother, so the conversations are brief, and you know, how you doing? Everything's good? And he was in New York for a day, and he's like, oh, I heard you had some art up at a show. I'd like to see it. So he came all the way from the city. I picked him up, and he came, and he was really engaged with it, and really like it just brought this softness between our relationship. I was very choked up to have that intimate moment with him, and when he saw himself there and us together in our childhood, it was very healing and very emotional. And I think it definitely opened up a whole another level in our relationships, from the everyday parenting and brother sister to that tenderness of childhood and the love that we have for family. So very healing there. And then I just want, with the second one, that, you know, talking about oppressors and oppression and about things that are going on, that is not something I would talk about. Everything's all happy and colorful. It's always joy. But to have to have these questions, to have this pain inside of you, and then to be able to put pieces and colors and materials together to express them visually, it's incredibly healing. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have time for one more answer to the question, and then
I think personally for me, it's healing in the process of making the art. There's so much going on in the world that is difficult and hurtful, and my art basically deals with things that are happening in society, and so I don't know that it has healed, but I think just the process itself for me is a very healthy thing.
thank you. So I have one more question, and if we could just keep the answers to brief so that we can open it up. I'm loving seeing how this crowd has multiplied over the course of the conversation. How has art been liberating for you?
I mean, I think this is the same as what I would have said to the last question as well. As you mentioned, as an introvert, it's often hard to express myself in words and directly to other people, but through the art, it's a way to say the things that it's hard to say, whether that be something related to Jewish text, or I did a series about life as a mother. Sometimes there are hard things that it's easier to create art and express it that way than to say the things out loud.
Yeah, there was a point in my life when I stopped painting things that I think that those things was to make happy to people, so I stopped painting that. I mean, there's nothing wrong to paint flowers and butterflies, but I said that's not me. I mean, I can do that one day that I'm camping, but not every day, because I have a different vision. I have other things that I want to express in my canvas that is very personal, so I was afraid to express that. So when I looked around and I started organizing shows with my classmates from when we were in middle school in Cuba, I noticed that they were already expressing a lot of their personal life. And I say, I'm not doing that, I want to do that too. So I broke with whatever I was painting before and totally changed, and then made me feel free. And then to get to the point that when you are, I feel like I'm trying to represent a different culture or different community in my art and make justice. So at that point, I feel like my role in this world is like an artist, and not even male or female. I put that to the side, and just an artist that is representing everyone.
So I came at art also, as Susan said, much later in life, and I actually left a corporate environment which was so not free and so structured and so also not me. So it was very difficult for me sometimes in that environment. And in art, as everyone has referenced, I mean, what is inside you comes out, and being in, having it shown and watching other people liking it or not liking it, and or relating to it, not relating to it, it's there. And I think that again, it's the whole process of art making, and from the beginning to the end, which is very freeing.
Thank you. So I have a million more questions that I wish I had the time to ask, but we have this fantastic audience. First, I would like to say thank you so much to the panelists. And for the audience, there are some seats. If anyone would like to sit down, there's some seats in between.
There are 4 seats up here.
So please feel free to sit down, since we'll be opening up the questions to the audience.
So I think before the whole audience, we have, this is just a little disclaimer, we would love to have had all the artists up here on this panel, but we have so many artists in this show, and so it was impossible. But I do want to give those artists an opportunity to speak to any of the questions that you asked. And if you are an artist in this show, if you could raise your hand just so everybody can know that. Yes. And if you like, you could come in these seats up front. But we welcome you to respond to any of the questions, and after you've had an opportunity to do that, we'll open up for Q&A.
I'll give up a seat for.
You don't have to, it's okay. It's fine. Come on up.
Yes.
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 Very much.
Hello. Please introduce yourself.
Well, I was trying not to.
Hi, everybody. My name's Marcia Yerman, and I'm an artist, and I'm also a writer. And stop taking pictures, please.
Take the pictures, that's
No.
right.
And I've been very involved in on the groundwork around Israel and Palestine. For many years before anybody was really kind of paying attention to what was happening. So when I saw this call for artists, it was really a wonderful opportunity for me to express what I'm always talking and writing about. And when I started writing around 20 years ago, I noticed that more people could see an article that I wrote in a day than could see my artwork. But with this opportunity, I had a very deep longing to create something which spoke to my philosophy of changing paradigms that have been in place for 75 years and hasn't been working and wasn't working for a long time. And it's not easy to speak out, although that doesn't stop me, but it's not easy to speak out against people who are part of your community, even though you might not want to feel part of that community. So in this work, originally I had a lot of printed material that I had pulled out of the newspaper. And then I reread the call and I realized that I was being too negative and I had to be more positive. So I focused on creating two women, because I do think that women, and there are a lot of Palestinian Jewish organizations made up of women who realize that the patriarchy and militarism and a lot of those modalities are not going to get us anywhere other than where we've been. So I made my two figures women, and there were so many pictures in the newspapers of destroyed buildings in Gaza. And there were a lot of moving parts in my piece, the figures, the background, and I spent a lot of time on the destroyed triangle, the building with everything coming out, with the wires, and thinking about what was going on for those people as their homes were being destroyed. And in making the two women, there was a lot of sewing involved, which is very meditative, which means like you don't have to think about everything else that's going on, and it's problem solving. As you're creating the piece, you're solving technical problems. So this is my friend Lisa, and she would call and she'd say, "You sound so much better while you're working on your piece." I said, "Because I'm not thinking about anything else." So I hope that when people look at the piece, they will see a Palestinian woman and an Israeli woman trying to reach over the divide, the wall, the destruction, to try and build together a new way of looking and sharing the land that they both have deep feelings for together.
Marcia, why don't you show where you put it?
It's hanging on the wall in the middle.
Okay.
Oh,
Gotta
and the
go
most
check that
important thing I forgot is, since I'm always writing, I'm always kind of proselytizing. Those are different groups that on the ground that are doing work. Combatants for Peace, the Parents Circle, which is made up of Palestinian and Israeli people who have lost family members, gone through the anger and decided that it's not going to work, and they've come together as as people, that they always appear together, a Palestinian and an Israeli Jewish person, to talk about who they lost, how they died, how they went through the process. I also have combatants for peace there. Those are people who have been in both Palestinian armed rebellion and Israeli IDF, who have come together to change the conversation. So I was hoping that by, instead of using all the print from the newspaper, I thought I'm gonna put down the names of 4 groups. Maybe people will take a photo, look them up, see who they are, and start to find out about their work. And the beads that come from the bottom, I have a lot of interest in Jews who have come from Arabic countries, the Jews, like everybody else, have problems and they don't get along and nobody likes anybody. So there are different groups of Jews, and I think that the Jews who come from Arab backgrounds, who are called Mizrahi Jews, have felt a lot of intolerance and prejudice from Jews of European descent. And I've been very interested in the Jews of Yemen and Morocco, and so that's what the beading and is at the bottom, which brings together how much commonality there is between the two groups.
Thank you so much. So, yeah. Yes. So, just one reminder, if we could keep our descriptions and answers just to 2 minutes, that would be great. Thank you so much.
My name is Louis, and my piece is down at the end. And I just want to say what a wonderful opportunity it is to be here with the kind of community that thinks a little bit beyond normal thinking, and what a privilege it is and how happy I am to be part of a group like this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Are there any other artists who have any questions?
Yes, my name's Inez Andrusik. I have a little piece. I'm not sure because I missed the opening, so I'm not sure where it is. It was just a scribble piece, and it turned out to be 3 fabric with 3 heads, and you know, we have all different religions here, and I was raised a Polish Catholic. When my relatives came over 3 generations ago, they forgot they were Polish, and I just blended into the white diaspora or whatever the heck it is. When they say I'm white, like, why do they always have to ask those questions, you know? So I went to Poland, and I loved the place, but I didn't feel at home there. This is my home. America is my home. All these people, I love you all. Anyway, so I just have to say, the other thing is, I've become a Buddhist, and the 4 Noble Truths, they're the most real, ultimate truth is suffering. The second truth is there's a reason to suffering. The third truth, there's an end to suffering. And the 4th truth is nirvana. That's where I'm waiting to go.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Jacobson, and I have a piece that I can see. I also didn't see the placement of all pieces, but I see a piece that's on a pedestal. It's called Confession, and it says, "Bless me, Father, I have not sinned." And it's a result of being brought up by a very devout Catholic mother, and very strict about how we observed our religion until I started questioning that when I got older, you know, because in church wasn't necessarily a very good thing to be gay. And so that was my piece in kind of, not rebelling, but coming out, I guess. And in the response to that piece, being in public spaces like galleries, I've had conversations where people have had the same exact, you know, situation that I've been in, where they're in their upbringing. They've been kind of focused, follow a certain religion that just didn't really work for them anymore. You know, so that's my piece over there.
Anyone else? Any other artists? If not, maybe we can open it up to an audience Q&A.
Oh, wait, Damon.
Yeah, I was just looking right at
Yeah.
that. Oh, Damon.
I mean, everyone has said so many thoughtful, personal things, and I'm just thankful to be part of this show. And I don't think I could really do justice to a lot of the other comments and things. So I just want to thank you for putting this together, because it's been so eye-opening and ear-opening and mind-opening. Yeah, just thank you for making this happen.
Damon has been wonderful in sharing on social media. We thank you so much. You've been amazing.
I can work tech.
Hi, I'm V. My piece is right here. I also missed the opening, so I also found them arriving today. I make art about identity, people, because they matter to me. Grateful to be in the show, grateful to see the stories that people are here representing and listening about y'all.
So I think that we can open up to an audience Q&A. Please, for any of those who are standing, we still have some seats left in between. Feel free to sit down. Yeah, and we can open it up to any questions that the audience may have. Yes, in the back.
Hi, everyone. My question for you, sir, Mr. Carlos Mateo. I noticed your work focuses on mysticism, perhaps Eastern. And first, I want to know why, like the story behind that, and also how you, I guess, how you connected to bridging chasms.
Well,
so to speak.
yes, thank you for asking. Mysticism. I mean, I don't belong to any religion in a specific. In Cuba, we have Afro-Cuban religion from different areas. In West Africa, we have Catholic, we have different religions that have been growing into that. But I see everything from as an outsider. So it's different when you are representing something than you are into that religion than when you are outside of that. The vision is different. So I'm representing Afro-Cuban culture, for example. I work with musicians. I'm a dancer also, so I'm into that, in the dialect and they speak and all that. I said nobody's representing them. And I'm the painter who had to document the Afro-Cuban culture in New York. As a dancer, as a painter, as an outsider. And so I write poetry, I catch everything that they talking, every conversation that is very, I mean, the vocabulary that we use, I bring it into poetry. The poetry is connected with the painting. So when I get into religion, I mean, it's mystical. If I don't want to say that and it's taking me into another dimension. Also, when I express in my dreams, when you are dreaming, that's the more realistic way for me to get into another dimension. When I'm dreaming, if I don't believe there is another dimension, but when you are dreaming, you are living another life into your own life. And sometimes I wake up and I'm being so intense into my dreams, and it's like I don't remember what I did the day before, because you were living in your dream like 3-4 days. And so, well, how to express that with symbolism and then connecting symbols that are related with other culture. And that's the case of the fire eater and the phoenix bird. I said, well, I want to combine two. I'm into that line of Middle East and India, but I want to bring a second character that doesn't belong to that culture. What other elements work with fire? And I said the phoenix birds that I'm going to the Greek mythology. So I was building a bridge for something that they have in common, that is fire. And that's an example of that.
Any more questions?
What's your favorite color?
That's
Which
right,
one?
that's a great
You have to choose one?
Yeah.
Hot pink.
Ooh, that's not fair.
Mine's just easily red.
That's purple.
Well, what's yours? Is it
Oh, I have
green?
5.
I was gonna say, yeah. Today it's green.
Oh,
It's like
you can
green
say
today.
that. Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of green today.
Yes.
Could I ask you to express what the word or your response to chasm means?
You say chasm, and maybe it's just because the title of this, but you immediately the thought is bridge. How are you gonna cross it?
Yeah, for me, it was connecting.
For me, it was the exact opposite. The word chasm. To me, the word chasm is the exact opposite of bridging. It's the separation. It's this large pit that you just can't get across.
For me, it's difficult, difficulties that are very hard to reconcile.
So then I have a follow-up question. When you saw the title, for Susie and for Heather, when you saw the title Bridging Chasms, did you think, wow, those are antonyms, how can those things work together? Or like, what were your thoughts when you saw the title, and how did you approach that, in what you submitted for the show?
I thought it's so important. It's just, it's so important that we try, even if we don't succeed, to bridge chasms, so.
Yeah, exactly that. That the world today has so many large chasms, and it feels like people can't even see each other, let alone have a conversation across it. That this show just feels so important to start and try to have the conversations.
How do you know when the piece you're working on is finished?
When you start damaging, you have to stop.
When what?
When you start making damage of the
Oh,
piece,
yeah.
you say you already crossed the line.
I feel like it's when you hear the bell. It's like everything. Yeah, it's electric. And I've only I've been a creator my whole life, and I have not been, been parenting for the past 27 years. So this is really my first time now empty nesting, and I'm like, okay, now all this stuff inside, I can do it. But definitely for both pieces, it was like I heard the bell. It was like ding, 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 ding. Okay, that's it. I'm good. So I didn't, I didn't overdo it. I think I knew when it was done. It's that vision inside of you. It feels complete.
I agree. It's almost like you're spent. You've
Yeah.
given it's giving back, and you're like, okay, you're finished. I'm just waiting now for it to dry and solidify what's in my head.
The mission.
Well,
Definitely.
the other thing is you always invite other people to look at it, and they give you some kind of suggestion. And that's the case of a mural. 3 dancers, related to Yoruba religion was Shango, Ogun, and Oya in the middle, mediating the fight. And then my son, he was 7 at that time, and he said, "What do you think?" And he said, "You need to put a moon in the middle, Daddy." I said, "But there is a lot going on here and here. I need some space to breathe, and empty space." And he said, "Yes, you need empty space, but you need a moon there." All right. I painted the moon, and he went to school. I picked him up. He come home, sit down. I painted the moon. What do you think? And he said, "It's on top of the sky, and the moon need to be inside the sky." He went to school for me. The piece was done. I took him to school. He came back. And what I mean, he means that the moon was not integrated, so I ended using the same transparency effect on top of it to integrate the moon to the sky, and I say, I did it. What do you think? I say, it's okay, but you can do better than that. So that's one of my stories about my son. My critic.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to affirm to what Taisha said earlier about like being a Muslim. My name is TJ Mohammed. I was born in Ghana. I moved to Yonkers, like second year around Glenwood. But the relationship I have with your, I don't know if it's a sentence or like the conversation you had about you being a Muslim and female growing up, I relate with that a lot. I spent my entire life in a boarding school in Ghana, a Catholic school, but I'm a Muslim, and my dad, I believe he intentionally did that because of the upbringing.
Yeah.
Now I enjoy that, knowing how to live within different communities. So I also wanted to use your comment to encourage artists on how we should go into communities like the name of Carlos. He had mentioned of how being a teaching artist and how that impacts kids. Because I didn't see any artists growing up, so when I got to the point of choosing a career into art, although I've been drawing since 7, my parents were happy about it. It was challenging to see a Muslim going into art. Many Muslims would relate to this, but the freedom I had at home encouraged my parents to let me go into it as long as I'm not going to make trouble. And that became a lot of inspiration for many kids that I visit in schools. So whatever you believe in, how we are prophets of our time. So how can we expand this religion of art with only a studio practice? It would be impossible. So I urge us to like go out, sometimes volunteer, find ways to speak with kids. It does a lot to them. I know many teaching artists would affirm to that as well. To the question of finishing arts, my pieces, when I start working, it's a conversation. So whenever I realize that the conversation is kind of fading away, regardless of the love story or intimacy you have, gradually it will finish. So that is how, it gets to a point, everybody goes to sleep. So that's how I end my pieces.
I love that point. I mean, you do have to interact with people. As an artist, you're kind of an introvert anyway, and also being an artist that was not, I don't want to say supported, because my family was supportive. They are supportive in the spaces that they know will support, they feel they will support me back, and being an artist, choosing that life was not an easy task for my family to be like, what are you talking about? That's not really what, and then teaching children, as you said, and even adults to find that space in themselves to be happy is really nurturing for the artist too, because we're also being nurtured, in a way that we may not have been before. And as a Muslim, it's really important for representation. As a Black woman, it's really important as representation. I was born and raised here. I'm American. My grandmother is Native, so she's she was born on a reservation. She's Native to this country, and all these different things that make me who I am allows me to spiritually connect with every situation. And my children were also allowed to just go ahead and do what they wanted to do, because that's not something that I grew up with. And teaching other children to not necessarily be artists, but be whoever they're going to be is what's important.
I just wanna, it seems that very unintentionally, religion has become a big part of this conversation in your identity and in your work, and then in your community building, and then also in the divides that have been created in your life. I just wanna throw that idea out there on the intersection of art and religion within yourself and your communities. I don't have a question necessarily about that, but it's so interesting listening to all of you talk about your different experiences with religion and how over time it's evolved and your experience with it has changed. Maybe it started off a little bit, negative, and then it has become something very personal and spiritual, or you've broken off from it completely. Whatever it is, it's so interesting. I did not know going into this conversation that it was going to be so heavily influenced by your own religious background. So thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
I'm wondering what you all think about just having, what is the potential for children and adults to relate to something just based on beauty? Just beauty, not commentary, not work that's done by this group, that ethnic group representing their motifs, but I mean, I was a school teacher for a while before I got involved with art, but what I find is the commonality of children looking at something and agreeing it's beautiful, even if they don't think the same way, but they're all uplifted by beauty and creating beauty. So it's a totally different angle. So in terms of, they might go see the Impressionists, from people who are in some very conservative religions. But do you think there's an avenue of soulful connection between art that is done for just beauty? That's to lift up people and connect them even though their cultures are different. That's my question.
Me too. You go first. First, thank you for the question. Secondly, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Pardon me?
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So you don't know, like you said, children, adults, what will connect them. Color, the way that the shapes are. There's so many different ways that's beautiful. But art always is a conversation. Always is a conversation between the viewer and the person who made it. So how children connect to art can be depending on the level, depending on what happened, depending on where their life is. Even as children, they've gone through things that we may find mundane but are not. As an interloper, you will be able to connect to art that is beautiful. There are pieces, I've gone as far as Morocco, and I've been in shows all over, luckily all over the world, and things that I find to be, why is this here? Someone will be totally taken aback and brought to tears, and I'm looking like, what, crying? Like, but that's me, and I respect and enjoy and totally am in awe of artists, because we have so much to say in a way that connects everybody together.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the opening night, we were blessed to have children present. Both of Heather's kids were here, and they're exceptional children. But her 8-year-old son went up to my piece, and he was just standing there, and I didn't explain anything or show anything, and he went up to the quilt, and he's like, what I really enjoy about your work. This is how we started. Yes, 8-year-old, big eyes. There's just so much here. There's so much color, and there's so many details. And even if you weren't present, a person could come up and engage with it, and they could come back again and again and find different things to look at and learn. So this is an 8-year-old, exceptional 8-year-old. And then just the other one with the mechanics. He was fascinated by the mechanics. So, and then my kids are in their 20s. They came, I was like, you guys just come and say hi, look at everything, and you can leave in 20 minutes. They stayed the entire night. They were so engaged with they looked at everything several times.
They asked a lot of questions too.
Yeah, they were just blown away. And it was, maybe it's the color that draws you in first, or shape, but they were very engaged, all the kids that I saw. So.
Could I add something? Yeah. I think it's also about witnessing. Like how we are all seeing something together, whether it's disagreeing or liking it, like participating with it and existing, the acknowledgement of the conversation is super important, because just the power of these objects in existence and what they're trying to say. I think whether it's trying to do beauty or anything else,
Can I also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut someone off, but can I also answer that question? So with my late mentor, we had many conversations about religion, all types, and he always said there are pathways to the source. They may not necessarily agree on the same things, but it's a way of understanding what's behind the curtain, basically. And for as human beings, we have to have those inner questions that has to be answered. Artists are special because we have better glasses and we can see a bit further than others to see what the truth really is. So even if the subject is not necessarily about spirituality or God, those aspects will somehow always be in the equation. And I think when you do this kind of act, do this kind of thing, you can't leave spirituality out of it. You can't, even if it's just painting a flower or painting a landscape or painting a portrait of someone. God is always there in some capacity. So I personally don't think you can separate the two. I think it's beautiful to not have to worry about talking about political things. I believe politics is ridiculous. I think it is what has kept people apart for so long, and we all have the same needs and the same wants and desires. I really believe that.
Yeah, that is true.
And so why, we separate ourselves with thinking about like this is the correct way to live, God will only know and understand that. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just want to say one little thing. The whole visual world is beauty. So if it's fashion, if it's walking in Central Park and looking at the gorgeous design, if it's a typeface that's at a restaurant, I mean, the visual world is very, very large. And that, I think, that was my question more, does this, being in a beautiful space, do you feel it unifies people? I mean, to share the beauty that we all see everywhere,
I'd
rather
really
than
like to
just
speak
art on
to
the wall.
that as a curator.
Sorry?
I'd like to speak to that as a curator. I think this idea of what is beautiful and that it can be defined and compartmentalized is an elitist value. And what I try to do as a curator is dispel elitist notions of what qualifies as beautiful. For me, what is meaningful in art is the conversation that the artist is having with the viewer. And very often artists don't know what those conversations are, and that's why openings are exciting, because artists get to hear how people are relating. But the art itself is the conversation and the truth that the artist is being vulnerable and putting onto a canvas or a piece of work. I find that ability to be vulnerable, to put yourself out in the world, I find that to be beautiful. To speak your truth is to be beautiful. So I think we have to be very careful when we talk about beauty as a concept or as a value in art.
How do you sustain that conversation? Because when I walked in here, somewhat like I would walk into a bookstore, I'd see a lot of titles and a lot of faces, and I would think, what's behind the book? What's in between the book? And when I look at some of this artwork here before, seeing the artist, I'm saying, well, what's happening? What's my conversation? But how do you sustain that now? When I look at that cross there, it means something completely different after the conversation. That, how do you, as a curator, how do you sustain the conversation with the artist and the piece without the artist being there? It's not like a written page.
Well, that is what the purpose of the art is that everyone, when they view a work of art, bring with them their whole selves. And who that whole self is different in every person. So how they receive that art is going to be different in every person. But I think it's important to create spaces where people can have whatever experience they're going to have with that artwork. It is a kind of conversation. I don't think most artists, when they create art, do it with a sense of, I'm going to narrate this step by step in how you should interpret my piece. Artists aren't thinking that way when they're creating. Well, Carlos is having those conversations with himself and with his art. But when people view, let's just take Carlos as an example, Carlos's work, I've had people come in and think that Carlos is an architect.
Yeah.
Because they see the architectural structure in the work. So everybody will find what they're meant to find when they approach a piece of art. And as a curator, we're not trying to command the gate for that. The gate is open for everybody to find what they need to find in each piece of art.
Not to mention, I would just like to add that the way that you and I suppose all curators have curated the space, it creates a whole nother form of a conversation, a whole other conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, taking in the artwork individually, is so different than when it's all together. So it's you can have a conversation with this one specific work of art, but it could be a whole different conversation if it was over there. And the fact that, you know, Heifa as a curator is looking at all of these very different, like especially in this show, the works are so unbelievably varied in their mediums, in the topics that they're addressing, and to see some kind of running theme or have some kind of conversation that makes it all coherent. And it's not just about the color, it's not just about the general theme or political theme of it. There's so many different moving components in how all of these works interact with each other. So it's like a million conversations essentially bouncing off of one another.
So conversations don't have to end, but we do have a light reception. And you can continue all of those conversations. But I want to give everyone a hand and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Enjoy light refreshments, please.
Yeah, we have another 30 minutes, 35 minutes on the I put another hour. Oh, good. So I just want to have a quick
ability to preview what
Hi, can I take your picture? Can I take your picture with
Are you a painter?
Come forward a little bit.
Portrait artist?
Yeah. And then face. Yeah. All beautiful. Beautiful. Right there.
The number is the day.